Welcome to Focus on the Candidates. I'm Cynthia Pooler. My guest today is Rachel Howard, and Rachel is running for the U.S. Senate in the state of Michigan. So, Rachel, tell us a little bit about your campaign. Why did you get inspired to run, and what are your goals?
Ooh, why did I get inspired to run? So for, was it 15-ish years now, I'd have to say, I just kept watching this kind of devolution of civility, of respect. And I've been very frustrated for probably the last 10, 15 years seeing this progression. Every year, I really just kind of expected and waited for the adults in the room to show up. And I just wasn't seeing it. Uh, so, what I ended up kind of thinking about is why on earth we were still electing these candidates that were contributing to a system that was not encouraging civility or respect or communication. And instead, we're contributing to this like doubling down of kind of party or personal agendas. Uh, I am very much a Democrat. People sometimes call me a dino at this point because I have historically voted for whoever I believe is the best person with the best platform for an office.
Mhm.
And the right person for the right office at the right time, sort of mentality. But I found that that doesn't even seem to matter any longer. Um, it's no longer voting for a candidate, but it's voting against someone. I'm
Mhm.
not voting for so and so. I'm voting against this other person.
Mhm.
And that's not what our country was supposed to be about. Uh, and as a result, we just keep seeing this increasing divisiveness and kind of playground name calling. So when the current administration took over in January, some sweeping changes started happening. And I really couldn't take it anymore. Um, I looked at the expected players in the field and the current elected officials. And what I saw was people who had made politics their career. And they're running for an office as kind of the expected next step on a ladder,
Mhm.
as opposed to, I really feel that I'm the right person with the right platform at the right time for this position. Um, so when January occurred, I was working at the VA in research, and my own position became pretty tenuous with some of the government cuts. And what I basically said was, this can't go on. I'm not seeing candidates that I feel truly represent the values and the issues that we need addressed. So I am going to leave my job at the VA, and I am going to be the candidate that I wanted to see in the field for the last 10 years.
Mhm.
So here I am.
So that was a bold move to quit your job and run for office.
It's it is. If I had the ability, I would have loved to retain my position. I truly loved my career. It was amazing. I loved what I did. The team I worked with were fantastic. But you cannot run for a partisan office and be a federal employee. So
Right.
it really wasn't a choice. I had to make the decision of, do I want to kind of continue with where I am, or do I want to take this chance and leave my job and and run for office? And it came down to my husband. My husband actually called me out on it and said, Rachel, at the end of the day, it's your choice. But in 2026, when the ballot comes out, looking at the candidates that we expect to run, if any one of them took office and you hadn't even tried, would you be comfortable with your decision? And I'll be damned if he's not right. I would not feel that I had done all that I could to have
Mhm.
a positive outcome if I did not make this choice.
Mhm.
So that's where we're at.
Wow. So you have declared your candidacy.
I have declared my candidacy. I am recognized as a Democratic candidate for office.
Are there any other people challenging you at this point?
Oh, there are a number. We have 5 candidates that I'm aware of currently in the field, though I will say that there, I believe, is one other candidate that may be similar to me in a grassroots campaign that I have not heard much about, but there's a whispering. So there may be 6 candidates for this position.
Okay. So, um, how how has the press been treating you?
How has the press been treating me? It's very easy for them to treat you well when they don't communicate with you. Um, for the most part, I'm an unrecognized candidate. I am located in things like Ballotpedia. You can
Mm.
find me on FEC website because I am declared and recognized. But the mainstream media is not necessarily taking notice
Mhm.
or really publishing or reaching out about that.
So, are you challenging an incumbent?
I am not.
Okay.
So I would not challenge an incumbent this year. It is Senator Gary Peters,
Okay.
who has been in office for a number of years, but I genuinely believe in the work that he has done.
Mhm.
And I would be very happy if Gary Peters had chosen to remain a senator. I wouldn't be needed if he was running.
Mhm.
So that is the only reason, is because he has chosen not to run this year.
So you're kind of invisible in the mainstream media at this point.
At this point, yes.
So there's also like the alternative media,
Mhm.
um, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Have you been doing anything on those platforms?
I have. So shame on me. I was not a person that networked the majority of my life. I always expected my work to just kind of speak for itself. So I didn't really network a lot. I was not a social media person. But when I decided to declare candidacy, all of the social medias became fair game, and I have platforms up in all of them.
Hmm.
I actually have a fantastic team of interns and volunteers that have come on to volunteer their time, simply to help me get those platforms going, to build those platforms and get the word out. So they're growing daily.
That's wonderful.
I know. I know. It's really, it is incredibly inspiring
Mhm.
because these are individuals who found me.
Okay.
I didn't go and search high and low. I'm not a big standard candidate with oodles of money coming in. I'm certainly not independently wealthy. So these people are coming on without pay. They are volunteering their time and their energies and their passion, and they came on because they believed in the campaign. That was one of our kind of requirements was, are you okay with my message? Because I don't want somebody representing something they don't believe in.
Hmm.
And the passion in these young individuals who are in their 20s is so impressive and amazing to me. It's inspiring. It truly is.
So if you have any kind of a technology problem, I've learned, ask a young person.
Yes. Yes. That's exactly it.
Because I tell younger people when I was your age, all we had for communication was a telephone in our home.
A landline.
Yep. And look at how it's grown since then.
I They have all been amazing assets because I don't necessarily know what I'm doing with some of these platforms, and there's a learning curve.
Right.
And they already have so much experience on it.
Hmm.
They're a huge resource.
So how have you been doing with fundraising?
Fundraising is an interesting challenge.
Okay.
Again, I'm not independently wealthy. I'm no Elon Musk that can throw oodles of money around. And I'm not a large party candidate. While I am a Democrat, they already have their expected candidates that they have supported and grown over the years. So there's certainly no real party support at the moment coming in. Fundraising has been doable. I've
Okay.
received enough funds to kind of pay for my overhead.
Okay.
It's been steady. We've only
Hmm.
been doing this now for about 2 months,
Okay.
and it has been a steady stream. Um, my team has created some fundraiser plans, both more traditional as well as your newer social media style fundraisers that we hope to kind of keep that going, so that we are able to fund my travel for the most part. Because that's where for my campaign that the biggest cost comes in is the traveling,
Right.
hotels and gas and food.
Right.
So
When people outside Michigan think of Michigan, they think of Detroit, Flint. Now, do you have a lot of rural areas in your state?
we do. That's actually something that's part of my basic platform. Is the vast majority of Michigan is rural.
Okay.
We have our few big cities. Southeastern Michigan, for the most part, is very developed, but Michigan is a massive state, and the vast majority is incredibly rural. That has kind of been left behind a little bit.
Hmm.
So it's an interesting demographic because we do have a large developed area with a high concentration of voters, but the rest of the state can end up a little bit less represented in their needs.
So, yeah, in rural areas, technology is lagging behind.
Mhm.
So, what do you see in rural areas that needs addressing as far as technology is concerned?
As far as technology is concerned, I think one of the number one things that we need to improve is access to broadband,
Mm-hmm.
expanding that broadband access. And that's for a number of reasons. A lot of schools um, are very technology based these days. They're using laptops instead of traditional books. Kids go home and they have to do work, and libraries are not as much of a thing anymore. You're expected to go online and do your research. So, expecting these rural families to be able to kind of keep up just in basic education, if they don't have access to high speed, reliable internet, starting from K through 12, you're ending up with them kind of behind that eight ball. On top of that, looking at building any industry these days is so internet reliant
Right.
that it's hard to expect businesses to come in and be able to establish themselves and support a local economy if they don't have access to something as simple as reliable internet.
Hmm.
So I would say that's probably the number one thing that kind of would improve a number of areas for those small towns.
So, besides technology, what do you think the major problems in Michigan are?
The biggest problem is such an umbrella term as the economy.
Okay.
The economy is a concern in Michigan. And when I say economy, there's a number of factors that I'm referring to. The housing is a very difficult situation right now. Housing in our rural areas is generally affordable, but there's no job opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go find a job that you have a potential to grow with and improve your situation, you're going to have to go to your more urban areas, but you can't afford the housing in those, or the housing's not accessible. There is none. So people are kind of in this catch 22. where they're having to either travel to work or you're hoping to do things like hybrid or remote work, which is hard to do if you don't have reliable internet. But we're also looking at childcare costs. Childcare costs are exorbitant and they're insane, Cynthia. Um, and one of the problems we have is a lot of the assistance programs are based on the federal poverty line. So when you're looking at that FPL and say you live in a more urban area, the cost of living is much higher. And that FPL is not reflective of your life there as compared to someone who lives in an incredibly rural area.
Mm-hmm.
So the childcare costs, on average, you're looking at $20,000 a year, $15,000,
Oh my God.
$20,000 a year per child.
You could get into an elite college for that money.
I know. Trust me, Cynthia, I have two small children in childcare right now,
Oh boy.
and it is everything you can do to get by. When I was employed, I was paying for the privilege to work, waiting for the day that they got into a school that I didn't have to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
And we are fortunate that we were able to make it work. Not well, but we could make it work. We could get by. But there are so many people who do not have the ability to just make it work.
Right.
And when you have these young adults who are getting married and they're starting their life and they go, I have to make a choice. Do I want to have a house or do I want to start a family? Because I can't afford both.
Or pay off your student loan.
Or pay off your student loans if you went to a college. But
Right.
I can't do all of it.
Right.
And I mean, last I checked, like, isn't that kind of the definition of the American dream? Was to be able to achieve progress in a life that made you happy, that gave you satisfaction. You're supposed to have the opportunity to be able to buy a house, have a good job, have a family. And now we're in a position where you have to pick and choose which
Right.
of those variables are most important to you. Uh, that's not what it's about.
So when did you declare your candidacy?
Specific day. Let's see. I left my employment on May 23rd. And
Oh,
then I declared the first week of June. It was about a week after Memorial Day.
okay, so it's like almost 2 months.
We're almost 2 months. We're not quite at the 2 month mark. So we're still
Okay,
early.
right. In those 2 months, give a small synopsis of what you've learned so far.
You know what? When anybody asks me how the campaign is going these days, I have to say the number one thing that comes to mind is it is enlightening. Because there is so much that you think you know and you think you understand until suddenly you're in it and you realize that the system isn't working the way it's supposed to. The number one thing I learned is that we have a system that is set up for continued advancement and kind of a progress of professional politicians and not necessarily a model in which politics is a matter of service, where you go and you contribute what you can contribute for your period of time, and then you leave and go back to your day job while someone else who's got fresh perspective and fresh ideas comes in and takes over.
Right.
That is the number one thing that I have learned is this kind of ingrained system we've developed.
Because you have people in office right now, like Dianne Feinstein is a good example.
Yeah.
She was what, in her 90s when she was still a senator?
Yeah, I believe that. Yes.
And Nancy Pelosi's in her
Mhm.
80s.
Yeah.
You know, it's time for all those guys to move over.
It's nothing against them. It's purely a situation in which I don't think that you can truly represent your constituents when you have been removed from them for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And you've become used to the system that you're operating within. You don't even question it necessarily because you're so used to it. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't occur to you that what is occurring is maybe not the best way.
Mm-hmm.
You need those newer people, those fresher ideas to come in and be willing to challenge that system.
Right. But you see, you hit the nail right on the head. They don't want that challenge.
No, they
They
don't.
don't want it. They don't care if they stay there till they're 70, 80, 90 years old. They want to stay right where they are. And people like you, I'm sorry to say, you could go by the wayside. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, that's how it is today. And it's this is an interesting project that I'm working on, getting people who are not really in the
mhm.
establishment to talk freely about what they're feeling. I think it's very enlightening.
It is. And I can understand, I think voters have to take a certain amount of responsibility for this situation. Uh, I certainly have had it cross my mind when I'm voting and I say, here's this person I don't really know a lot about,
Mhm.
or they've never held office. And then I have this establishment candidate that has 20, 30 years of being in office. And well, they've got a demonstrated track record that I'm okay with. So maybe I'll just go with the devil that I know as
Mhm.
opposed to the one that I don't.
Mhm.
And I think that that is a relatively widespread sentiment that has contributed to where we're at. It's scary to try something new.
Right. Right. And the fact that you've never run for office before, correct? And
I've
you
not.
and you've jumped right into a statewide
Mhm.
race,
Yes.
which is like, you know, oh my God,
Mhm.
now how am I going to do this?
I ask myself that every single day.
Uh-huh.
Every single day, that thought crosses my mind.
Mhm.
But I'm reminded of the reason why I'm running. And the reason why I'm running is because of my frustration with that political ladder that occurs. The expectation is that you will start with a small office, you'll run for school board, and then you'll maybe run for county commissioner. And after commissioner, you will go for a state rep. And what happens is with each subsequent election, the party culls the pool of candidates
Right.
and says, these are the people that we want to kind of invest in and grow, and we're going to encourage them to move on to the next level.
Right.
So you're not getting necessarily a true unbiased democratic vote for office. You're getting a cultivated pool of candidates that have been hand
Right.
selected for you.
Right. Right. Right.
And if you choose to go along that path, if I chose to run for a more local office and work my way up, by default, you start to lose your own autonomy. You're not necessarily able to speak for the people you're representing.
Mhm.
You're you're kind of owing the people that put you in the position, that helped cultivate you, that helped bring you along, that donated to your campaigns. And I don't think that's necessarily what we need in these
Mhm.
higher offices. We need people who are not tethered, who don't owe anybody specifically. There's no favors that have to be repaid. And they are able to speak truly for the people that they're representing, both
Mhm.
those that voted for them and those that didn't. Uh, and that we don't really have a system that encourages or allows that at the moment.
Right. And that's difficult to change.
It
It's not
is.
easy. And it's not
No,
gonna happen overnight.
absolutely not. It does not happen overnight. But if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Right.
If we are unhappy with where we're at and we're unhappy with the system we have to be willing to have the courage to make a different choice. And if the choice isn't there, there's nothing we can do about it. So I feel it is our responsibility as citizens that if you are able to step up as a grassroots candidate, to work for these higher offices, it's just what we need to do if we want to actually start to shift that needle and make change.
So in these 2 months, would you say that what you've learned would fill up a semester in college?
A semester? What I have learned would easily fill up a year of college. And I have, oh goodness, I've got 6, 8 years of college under my belt.
Mhm.
And I have easily learned as much practical application and understanding as I would have in a year or 2
Wow.
of college. It has been, and it's not just my own experience, it's the people that I'm meeting and them imparting their own personal experiences, their wisdom. Um, it's it's almost overwhelming at times.
So you're running in a state, and each state has a large population. You
Mhm.
cannot possibly go door to door or talk to anybody, every day. So how are you reaching out to people?
Without the traditional fundraising mechanisms, I was given the rough quote of about $5 million per candidate was what was expected for this office in this race. And I was told, don't run. I was actively told, don't run unless you think you can raise that. And I think what it takes is a lot more creativity.
Hmm.
It is not going a traditional campaign route. Like in my instance, I have a lot of volunteers. I have interns who have come on for some of them for 6 months, some for 1 year. Some have offered to go the full distance if we're able to make it onto the general. And utilizing them, uh, creating solid and effective social media campaigns that are able to kind of get the name out there, create enough interest that people are willing to either go to an event or go to my website. I am traveling all over the state, whether that is through Democratic clubs that I'm starting with. That's going to some of our county fairs, our local fairs, where I'm able to get out and talk to people more, reach just a larger group of
Good.
people.
Mhm.
Reaching out to some of our more local politicians or people who held office previously but are no longer necessarily running for office.
How's
And
that
have
going?
I actually, it's the number one thing that has surprised me is I currently have both a sitting libertarian and a retired Republican who have backed my campaign.
Hmm.
One of them said that they will go door to door in
Wow.
their counties with me.
Hmm.
Um, because they believe in the message, they believe in the change that I'm looking for, they believe in my platform. Uh, And that right there, those two individuals specifically are what keeps me going every day. They're the
Wow.
ones that have shown me this doesn't have to be about party. It doesn't have to be the fighting. We can unify for common interest and common good. We just have to be willing to reach out and have those conversations.
Mhm.
Uh, So it's very creative marketing is essentially what it's coming down to. I have a trip scheduled to the UP for a week and a half where I'm simply going around to some of the Democratic clubs. I'm going to a UP State Fair where I'll be spending some time and I'll be speaking, reaching out to just some of the organizations up there, just getting that name out, having the conversation. And all of my contact information is accessible to anyone and everyone. Everyone has my email. Everyone has a work phone number, and I will take and answer any email, any phone call personally.
Mhm.
I have lunches with constituents who have emailed me and said, I'd like to talk more about your platform. You know, you haven't mentioned X, Y, or Z, and I want your position specifically. We'll go and grab coffee and we'll talk. And when we're done, whether you necessarily agree with me or not, I encourage people to share the information. Because at the end of the day, when the ballot is presented to them, I believe it is our people's right to have the knowledge to make an informed choice. Now, whether you agree with my platform or not is a personal choice, but you have the right to understand what that platform is and make that informed choice when it comes to election day. So I encourage people to share that information for that exact reason.
So give us your contact information.
My contact information?
Yeah.
My website is rachelforusenate.org.
Mhm.
There's a contact button down at the bottom that has a direct email to me. I respond to all of my emails. My email also has my work phone number attached to the bottom of it. And I respond to everybody. Doesn't even have to be from Michigan. Because ultimately, what we're seeing in Michigan, for the most part, is the same across the country. The issues and the concerns are very widespread.
Mhm.
Um, so it's not just necessarily a Michigan issue. I'm happy to talk to anyone. I learned as much from others as they may learn from me.
Mhm. So have you been getting enough sleep?
Uh, sleep is a little hard to come by.
Mhm.
Um, I do have two young children,
Oh boy.
um, so they certainly keep me running in the evenings after they come home from school. And coffee has been a huge friend. But at the end of the day, when it's finally time to wind down, what I find is I'm just ruminating on all of the things that I learned
Oh.
that day, that I was exposed to that day. It's that quiet time at night where you have to process and really synthesize everything that you experienced.
Right.
Uh, so even when I have the sufficient block of time to sleep, I'm planning and thinking and organizing thoughts.
Wow. So, Rachel, as your campaign unfolds, I would love to have you back on Focus on the Candidates.
I would love to talk with you more.
Thank you. You've
Of
been
course.
listening to Rachel Howard. I'm Cynthia Pooler. This is Focus on the Candidates. If you like this show, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Rachel, thank you. And thank you everybody for listening. Have a wonderful day.